Hello, everyone. I'm Eric D'Souza, and you're joining me today on Crime Writers of Canada's podcast, where we discuss all things crime fiction from authors from coast to coast. Joining me today is a Quebec author, Suzan Denoncourt. Hi, Suzanne. How are you?
Hi, Eric. Thank you for having me.
You are nominated for Best Crime First Novel, sponsored by Melanie Campbell, with a prize of $1,000 for your debut novel, The Burden of Truth. So, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm
A
excited.
little bit about you. Uh, it was at the height of her career as a business executive that Suzanne chose to pivot away from the corporate world and embrace a totally new chapter, literally. Gravitating towards mystery, suspense, crime fiction, she completed the first two manuscripts of the Cisco series before pursuing publication of her debut novel, The Burden of Truth. The early response was so favorable that she released Book 2, Heaven's Debris, just 4 months later. The next installment from the Montreal-based married mother of two is expected in late 2025, with more novels in the series to follow thereafter. Now, I have to admit, I've never asked any writer this question before, but you did quit a successful career as a business executive to become a self-published author. Any
I
regrets?
no, and I would say I definitely did step down for the position. It wasn't specifically to become a self-published author. I'd say that was the bonus that came with it. It was to have the luxury of time to pursue other things, and writing just seemed to suddenly become a natural fit and evolved immediately into a passion. So I'm all in.
Uh, Often I see that, let's say, an ex-police officer writes a police procedural because that's what they know. You're not writing business material, but I was wondering, did the corporate skills that you have help you in the sort of the business aspect of writing?
Interestingly, I got asked if my books were going to have the corporate slant, or as well as being asked, why didn't I write nonfiction for corporate? That probably would have been, the easier avenue for me to pursue. It's I think it's helped with certain components of this first book. Doesn't feature much in the second. Where it certainly helps me is in the self-publishing world, viewing it as a startup business, and all the managing the many components of the process to say, well, okay, I was able to do this in the business world. How does some of that translate into managing a new career as an author?
Yeah, that's something that a lot of self-published authors don't take that into consideration, I believe, is that you're every aspect of your business. And it is a business if you want to be successful. So you're the creative side, and then you have to also wear the marketing side. So good on you.
It it's the reason I waited until I got good feedback after the second one to even go down the avenue. To me, the publication process was going to be the daunting one, and certainly not the creative fun process of writing, but it was going to be a lot of work. And if I was going to go down that path, it had to be for a reason beyond just memorializing the work that I had invested, but also hopefully tapping into a readership base that was going to be meaningful and inspire me to continue writing other novels in the series.
I've been congratulating all these self-published authors this year because there's a lot of us, or a lot of you guys. Typically, it's one, and I'm like, kudos to you. There's at least six or seven that I found so far this year. Um, and one misconception I think that a lot of people have of self-published work is that the one author does everything. Whereas often we sort of either we have a team or we hire people. So I've been giving everybody the opportunity to give kudos to either the people you've hired that did a great job or your family who read it for you first.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. Well, okay, so first shout out would definitely be to the beta group of people who are, yes, an extension of family and friends, trusted folks, and with a good enough cross section of readership types that definitely helped in the process. Without them, I would never have done this. And I shout out to Miblart that did the cover art as well as the interior formatting. It's important to me that be professional and consistent because I was putting a series through. I wanted that to marry well across the entire series. And to the freelance editors. who I've worked with to do the proofing of that. So should I have had a larger team? I mean, at some point there's a budget to put in it, and at the outset, it's the all right, let's see what's what's reasonable at this point and what we can add more. Keep in mind, I went and put two out there before really getting a huge readership base in place. So it was gambling on a hopeful amount of sales that could follow thereafter.
A lot of people write about their home, but I haven't got. I'm starting to read your book, but I haven't mentioned a specific location yet. A physical
So
location. Wasn't even sure if it's real.
no, I debated initially whether I was going to create a fictitious location. And then I realized I didn't want to go through the effort of having to describe it and build it up because it wasn't going to be impactful enough to the storyline. Had I written in French, Montreal would have been the default location. That would have been a natural fit. In choosing to write in English, I will admit the business side of me said, okay, the largest pool of readers will be US based, so let's pick a city there. And I believe I was driving to Cape Cod and ran through Boston and thought, there we go. That seems to be a good location. It's somewhere that I've been, similar in size to Montreal, Northeast. So I've got the Four Seasons. And it's a city that is known with enough history. So that was easier for me. So yes, that is the setting of the book. There's a shout out to my hometown at some point towards the end. So I'll leave it
Um,
at that.
sure. I was reading the first few chapters, and I learned that it's going to be a series of Detective Matt Cisco. But the thing is, I haven't met Matt Cisco yet. So is
Yeah,
there a reason why I haven't met your lead
yes.
detective?
Yes, you probably meet him in chapter 5. So this was the interesting part. As I was writing this, it wasn't intended to be a series at the get-go. I was probably midway in when a friend of mine said, "Are you writing a series?" To which I said, "No." But the idea of it actually started to grow on me as the process of character development was something that I was truly enjoying, and not for his character in particular, but the various characters in this novel. I was really, really gravitating to that process and thought, if I had a series, then a character could develop over a number of books, and how much more interesting could that be? But this story is a standalone story. It's a multi-generational story. And the only character that could carry over into a subsequent novel would be Detective Max Cisco. That said, I neither wanted nor could write a police procedural. So while he is a common thread throughout the series, he's never intended as the protagonist, nor is the case that he's working on necessarily the central plot. It's how it intersects with the greater plot that really helps define the series. And he as a character it's not just the sleuthing component of what he's doing, but his humanity that allows me then to dig deeper into some of the social ails and the more substantive topics that I'm looking to navigate. So you're not far enough in it to see it, but yes, the question is asked. But ultimately, book 1 is essentially the backstory behind what drives him to leave homicide in favor of a different department. As of book 2, which is set 2 years later, he's now in that department, and the story is set there, and he is a far more prominent character, but again, not the central figure.
Wow, I don't say this to too many authors, but that's very ambitious. Creative and very ambitious.
Well, like I said, it wasn't intentional. I just let my imagination go wild and found myself writing in 2 timelines and writing in third person and first person, and then being able to, create that character that was hopefully likable enough, but was going to also allow me to tackle the topic at question in a different way. And it seems to have worked. So far,
Yeah, I have to admit, as a reader, you have to pay attention.
yes.
And that's not a bad thing. It's just like I didn't realize right away because you're changing point of view that Jennifer was somebody else or went by a different name.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, okay. And so it makes the reader think like Like
I've been told that from readers that it kept them on their toes. But once
that's
you get
yes.
into once you get into the cruising speed, then it becomes, harder to put down, and the intrigue is sustained, and everything wraps up nicely. The second book is a much easier read. There's just a single timeline. It's written in
Oh,
third person. Um, that's why I waited until the second, getting feedback on the second one before publishing, because I thought this is going to be a better indication of where the series is going. So yeah, two very different reads that were run through
hmm.
the same beta group who liked them equally. If not, enjoyed the second one more, but would say that they were completely different reads.
I also like to ask this question from all author, first-time authors. How long did it take you to write that first novel? Because it's a learning experience.
Yeah, I would say it took me 9 months to get the first manuscript out, real rough draft out, which to me didn't seem as long as I thought it would, but this was probably nine months of real full time. There were times when I had trouble pulling away from it. I would leave because I was just, I've got to go to the bathroom. I need to eat. I need to drink or something. I just found that even when I wasn't writing, I was thinking about it. I'd be doing a workout and, I'd have a eureka moment because I could now figure out some other point of the plot. So 9 months of that, and then set it aside, had it read, was probably already writing the second one before I went back and then did the proper edits before putting it out. So, but 9 months to get that first draft out, and then probably several more months to polish it up and get it through the next phase.
Uh, that is record pace.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
there may have been some obsessive writing in the process.
a lot of times when I ask people that question, first-time authors that question, it's like half my life.
Yeah. Well, I just got fully immersed in it. I think, the first reader of my book was myself. I had to keep myself entertained in the process, and I didn't storyboard it. So I was really kind of making it up as I was going along and thinking, okay, well, this would be a great twist right here, but how am I going to explain that later? I'll figure that out later. And so there was a lot of thinking that had to take place. And then I'd come up with these great ideas for how I was going to wrap it all up. And I surprised myself when I reread it long after having, months after, and was well into the second one and reread it. And I thought, no, that's actually not bad.
That's actually really good advice that a lot of authors give too, is to put it down for a while and
Put it
reread
down.
it
Yeah.
as almost with fresh eyes. And
Yes.
uh, the hardest thing to do is to say it's done. It's
Yes.
ready.
Yes, and that was another reason for publishing, is to just say the end, that's it, because it could be perpetual editing. I could see that I was going to get into that and thought, no, at some point I just need to part ways with it and say it's done, it's baked, move on. And it was a satisfying feeling, but it was hard. It was hard to just say, okay, this is it now. Let's see where it goes.
Well, congratulations. Is there any events or is it just hard work for you right now?
It's hard work for me right now, and I'm hoping that after the third, that I can invest more heavily on the marketing side of it to build out a proper readership base. But so far, the feedback received is positive feedback. It's inspired me to continue, which is a good thing, and I'm enjoying it. So for as long as I'm enjoying it, I mean, I hope I've got, I've got 10 books in me if I can, if not more. So that's the plan.
Excellent. That's a great plan. I'm glad to hear it. Well, Suzanne, it was a pleasure meeting you. This is our first time chatting, and I hope it's not our last.
Thank you, Eric. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate the shout out from Crime Writers Canada. This was great. Thank you so much.